I wanted to share my concerns with deep sea mining, something I don't really hear being talked about a whole lot. And I have my class students, my geology students, kind of talk about this in an online discussion, and I always kind of hit them with this thought at the end. So the reason I kind of bring this up is this is getting more and more prevalent. It hits the news, it hits kind of YouTube cycles. Every now and then is becoming a more and more of a reality and more popular. So recently, as of a couple weeks ago, Trump issued an executive order to expedite deep sea mining. This will most likely be kind of off the southeast coast of the Hawaiian Islands, a couple hundred miles off the coast. And it's been kind of known about for a while here. There's a lot of concerns with this. There's kind of your standard like environmental take of this might hurt the environment. There's also a lot of benefits. It's really interesting to kind of watch this from a political standpoint because it's almost like the political sides don't quite know how to jockey and figure themselves out to see how to sort of be divisive with this. From my opinion as a geologist, I think this is a potentially a very good thing. This is a vast amount of resources that we could go get that once we apply our technological and engineering advantages to this could be very beneficial. However, I want to share my concern with this and why this concern doesn't seem to be talked about by anybody, and maybe that's because I come at this as a paleontologist. I have now, as of a few weeks ago, written a book on paleontology. Here's me on the Okeanos Explorer with one of these deep sea exploration rovers, just to kind of show how big they are, and also the fact that I've kind of been in this realm. All my friends are engineers, and they've kind of done deep sea exploration, so there's my expertise on it. So where is my concern? So we're going to go down there. We're going to go to this environment, which we don't know a whole lot about in the deep sea. We just haven't explored it very heavily, and we're going to kind of strip mine this place of all these nodules. And is there life down there? Not a whole lot of life, but the life down there is extremely diverse, and we don't know a lot about it. So here's kind of my environmental example. So here's a forest, some woods that have been clear cut, and I really like this image because it shows this large area that's been clear cut. You know, maybe that's 40 or 80 acres, I don't know. What happens to this environment after, let's say, 40 years? If you don't touch it, it'll recover, right? All those trees, all the little seeds will find their way back into here, and this forest will regrow, and you won't be able to tell that anybody went in there and clear cut it. So over long periods of time, this isn't really damaging that environment as long as you kind of protect the biodiversity that's in these areas. Now, that life is used to that kind of damage, especially from, you know, we're talking about forest fires and that kind of thing, where this sort of resource removal does kind of mimic, at least a little bit, something that does happen in nature. What about these environments where you have these deep sea nodules and you have this life, and this is like 5 kilometers down, there's no sunlight? Something I talk about in paleontology is if you cause extinctions that kill off the life forms that are at this depth, what's going on the surface is probably insane. Like, insane mass extinction. Why do I say that? Because the environment down here in the deep ocean is very hard to change and hasn't really experienced changes throughout Earth's history. We can change the chemistry and the temperature of the shallow ocean farther up. We can certainly change the things on land, and this has happened. You know, an asteroid hits, kills off the dinosaurs, or mass volcanism from flood basalt volcanism or supervolcanoes or whatever. Changes happen fairly frequently and on a much quicker time scale on the surface of this planet throughout Earth's history. We've seen this a lot. We understand this really well through all the different mass extinctions we've had. However, we don't have a great understanding of what happens at these depths because these depths aren't really preserved in the geologic record. And also, we know that they don't change much. So the life down here is not used to change. It's not adapted for it. If you come down here and strip mine all these nodules out, kick up all that sediment, basically destroy anything that's there, how long is it going to take to grow back to how it was before? 1,000 years? 10,000? A million? Multiple millions of years? That is actually what will likely occur, especially if these nodules are part of the ecosystem. Because these nodules take millions of years to form. So, alright, that sucks, right? If you're an environmentalist, okay, that, alright, the life is going to die and we all like the life, hug the tree, yay. But what about taking a look at this as more of an economic sense? Is there economic value here beyond the nodules? And my answer is yes. Yes, there absolutely is. Here's a Greenland shark. My friend actually took this photo on one of the Okeanos Explorers expedition. This shark is older than the United States. There are organisms down here at this depth that have amazing adaptations that we are only starting to understand. And in a world where we're finding healthcare solutions through genetics, through adaptations that other animals have, and we're able to harness that, that's important. And if we're going to go mess around in an environment where these organisms exist, we want to make sure we know what's there and what it has. Otherwise, we may be throwing away something that's a lot more valuable than some polymetallic nodules that have some cobalt in them. This is something I don't hear being talked about. This isn't some kind of hyperbole I'm creating. I've taught a biology class, and one of the interesting things about teaching that class was I learned a lot from my students, who kind of showed me all these different medical advancements that exist due to using different types of life out there. There's a yew tree in China where we get a cancer treatment from. This is a concern to me. If we're not really sure what's there, we're not really sure what we're going to destroy, and we may end up causing the extinction of something that could be the literal fountain of youth. So, food for thought. Please share this idea with me. Don't share my video. I don't care about this. It's a long video. But carry that thought somewhere in the Reddit comments you go, in the YouTube comments. Bring this point up. This needs to be talked about with this deep sea mining. In general, again, I think it's a good idea to mine these polymetallic nodules. There's a lot of resource wealth there, but not at the expense of another resource we may be throwing away at the same time. Have a good one, and I'll see you in class.